Indie housing market. Get the latest insights right here.
Welcome back to Indie Housing Market. I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker.
Hi, I'm Shelly Walters with Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC Tucker.
It's weird to not have headphones. I feel naked right now. I guess if people are listening, that's going to sound really, really weird. But anyways, we're going out without the headphones, which is like a security blanket for me,
yeah.
honestly. Okay, so kind of this week, what I was thinking, this was a very odd week for me. That sounds weird to say it like that, but I mean, professionally.
You say that every week. So,
so here's the thing that I noticed this week. I noticed a significant uptick in showings. But here's
on your listings,
on my listings,
because you don't know about everybody else, but on your listings,
everybody else. But I do have a lot on the market across a broad range of price ranges, right? So I am very lucky with that. So as we were sitting here talking over the past couple of weeks about, you know, I can't promise you an offer with a price reduction. I can't promise you showings with a price reduction, right? We got a ton of showings out of nowhere across the board this week.
What do you mean by a ton? Like one list?
Yeah, I'll quantify that because that's fair. 3 and 4 in a week, right? Which is a lot.
Remember we used to get 30 and 40 on one listing in 1 or 2 days?
It's bananas.
So that's why when you said a ton, let's see what today's word means. Right? Yes.
Okay, I remember when things were really bad, like I would tell clients, like there's a couple times where I'd paid for clients to stay the weekend in a hotel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was a given.
Be miserable.
Because that's when we started listing homes on Thursday.
Yeah.
You leave Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then on Monday we'll talk about our offers, or maybe Sunday night.
It makes me want to revisit the whole list on Thursday thing. I still think it works. It's just good for any market, but you know, I think there is a case to be made about a Tuesday listing nowadays. But
you can be first.
Exactly.
But will it stay? Will it stay? Because it does seem, because I'm watching a lot of markets, and my emails hit Wednesdays. A lot of times on Wednesdays, it's just boom, boom, boom. And then Thursday, even more. I will say, I think listing on a Saturday or a Sunday is too late.
I agree with that.
But I don't know. Is it? It's just, I still have that feeling. I mean, and we only did it for like 4 years, but it seems like it's just ingrained all of a sudden.
Well, I think the biggest, it's a mental thing, because based on the stats, I'm gonna, you know, you're probably gonna, you hope to like get people that weekend, right? But you pick up a week quicker. I mean, it's still 7 days, but you know, like by the time you get to the beginning of the next week, you're a week on market, and we all know how people look at a house that's been on the market a week.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Versus 3 or 4 days, right?
Yeah.
People are like, oh, it's a week on market. I can offer 20K under or whatever. But
right, a week on market today, when we see, like, I'm just looking at my stats right now, that an average active listing in Carmel right now is sitting for 78 days. But still, that perception is out there. What's wrong with it? It's been on the market for a week.
Like, are you crazy? So I got like 3 and 4 on a lot of my listings, right? Only on my stale listings.
And had you done a price drop to get these listings?
No, because we're fine with days on market, right? And I mean, we've talked about it for weeks and months at this point. Like, I just don't do that. I'm probably going to do one-on-one this week. And we've had the whole conversation about it. But I listed a house last weekend, and it got no showings. And all of my stale listings all got showings. That's weird.
Yeah, it's just because the market's so weird, and I don't know where we are in this market in regards to.
A good price.
It's the whole thing. What I found interesting is you and I spoke last week at the Tucker's meeting with some of the offices about listings and price drops, because there's a lot of agents out there that have never really had to even have that conversation.
There was a whole conversation around how do you price a home, and our point was it's not around pricing the home because the comps are the comps are the comps. It's about the conversations that need to be had with sellers about what the selling process looks like these days and the timeline of it, not the price.
Yeah, the process, and knowing that you're not going to get that offer in the first weekend like we used to. More than likely, some do, some don't. But some of the responses we got back after, you know, when they were sending us emails of some of the feedback was, I remember one of the agents who came back and said just that afternoon she had to go have her first time conversation with the agent, and it really helped her to say, I just heard this about how to do it, because it is a knee-jerk reaction from some agents maybe that have not had to deal with this before, of like, oh, if we're sitting here at 14 days, it's time to lower the price. That's our answer. And that's not our answer. We keep saying that when you've got an average days on market is over 30, that's where you should be looking maybe at 30 days to talk about it. But it was interesting to start to hear some of the agents who have not been through this, because you and I have been, and I've been through doing it before you even started.
Yeah.
It was just the conversation you had at the table at the listing appointment. You talked about price drops would probably be a process. And for people to go into it listing a home in today's market and say, here's what we're going to list at, and, probably say that's what you're going to sell at, is not the conversation today.
I do think you and I are lucky with volume and stuff. And I know I haven't been doing it as long, but I tend to have a really good pulse on the market just because of volume, right? Like we were talking about it before, like numbers and stuff, because your numbers are all messed up because you got married and your last name. But we've done.
I'm not showing up.
Yeah, what's going on here?
Where'd she go?
We've done over 70 homes this year. We average like a closing every 3.5 days if you math it out. Like that's a ton. Like we have a good idea of like what's going on with offers and listings and all this other stuff.
And you also know as a buyer's agent how to go in as a very good buyer's agent, because you know what's happening on the other side. Mm-hmm. Sellers, well, also at Tucker in the meeting, they talked about for the entire company wide, they've seen the most price drops. Price drops are happening more than before COVID. And that's all of Tucker. I'm sure it's all of Indianapolis, because I was just doing doing my price drop strategy with my sellers and sending them the stats and everything. And I was looking through their price grouping where they set out for their competition around them. And the amount of price drops I was seeing in the ones that had pended and the current actives, I was seeing 8 and 9 price drops in 40, 45 days, 20 days. There was like 5 already.
Yeah. I
was shocked to see. That's an overreach in my opinion. Like but it still didn't sell. It's still. So what did they do? List it too high?
No, they
I don't know.
The numbers were there to list it. Because here's the thing, it's not like things aren't appraising, right?
Right.
And so this gets into, kind of appraised value versus fair market value, right? Fair market value is what somebody's willing to pay for something, right? And that gets very complex when you start talking about these things, because I think the general consumer is going to be like, fair market value is saying that this is worth less and blah, blah, blah. But yes, but I also think sellers are overreacting and doing price drops, and agents are doing price drops because they don't have an answer or aren't used to having the conversations of, we're fine, we just have to be patient because it is priced correctly per the data.
Mm-hmm.
And then
right.
you get it, the other agent, who wants to write you an offer will be like, well, fair market value is that? Like, cool, well, like, let's figure that out.
Just put it in paper and we'll all get together on a number, right?
I'm not anti-price drop. Like, I'm a big believer in price drops. But if you aren't disciplined in understanding why you're doing a price drop, like if you're just doing a price drop because there's been no movement, and so that means price drop, that's not correct, actually. Like, it's just not, like, not per the data at all. So I just think we're doing an injustice by just dropping price to drop price because an agent doesn't know what to do, when the answer is having a educated conversation to know that we shouldn't be doing anything because I can't manipulate the market to purchase a house. Like, that's just not a thing.
Right. Well,
I can't create buyers.
Right. When we have limited buyers out there, that we just need one, right? We always say that we just need one. And I remember a conversation, a couple of months ago. Quickly say, this should have been our most busy time, June and July, and it wasn't, and it was a much slower time.
But February was super busy. Everybody forget, like,
I
they
know.
just want to look at these 2 months, and they don't want to look at like what we've dealt with over the past 6, because like February and March were disproportionately busy.
Yeah, and so you expect the summer to be, and it's not. So are we walking into fall being crazy? I don't know. The markets, there's no seasonality to it. But when my sellers were getting concerned with their house and wanting to do a price drop, the conversation you have to have is, when you know the stats and you know the average days on market and you look around at what's going on, there are 2 groups of houses. There's the ones that did sell, but looking at the active inventory right now, and I had to have this conversation with them, is we were looking at an average days on market in their area of 45 for the houses sitting, and they wanted to do something at like 14 days. And I just said, no, you're just too premature. I mean, they wanted to. Back in the day, if a seller came to me and said they wanted to do a price drop, it was like, yippee, I can do a price drop. I don't even have to have the conversation. Let's go. And I was holding them back and saying, no, 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 no. Average means you could sit here longer than that. Like, you're fine. Because just chasing a price to hopefully get a buyer who we're seeing the stats tell us you shouldn't even have a buyer yet, you're fine. So that's where people just really need to look. And it's different for every price grouping in every town.
I mean, I had a comp a house this week, right? Over the weekend, and it was in Cool Creek North, right? Super desirable area of Carmel, right? Like it's mature trees.
Yeah,
It's a
that's the
great
first thing I thought of when you said that. Those trees. It's a nice
really
neighborhood.
good neighborhood, and I've got stuff sitting. And I would say majority of the houses are what I call, like I think agents would call them updated. I would call them partially updated. So it's like kitchen has been redone, but the bathrooms are like were redone 12 years ago, or like, hey, we've got new paint, but nobody painted the trim because
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know, you start painting trim, it gets really, really expensive.
And it
right?
also looks nice, though.
Right, it does. But
Trim
so
really
it's like
makes a difference.
all the coloring is reflective of you should have white trim in this house, but like they didn't because you got to pull it all. It's a pain in the butt, and then not just then, like you're talking about, if you do trim,
And
now you're doing.
you start
doors,
here,
like,
you
it's a
start
thing.
there.
It's
Yes,
like, where
yeah,
do you
yeah.
stop?
You
And
don't
so that's
stop.
why I'd say it's like partially updated, and these are really good houses, and I'm just like, man, they're just sitting. Like we're looking at like 60 days on market, 90 days on market. One of them sold, rapidly, but I didn't think the prices were crazy. I mean, they're higher than they were 5 years ago, but I didn't think they were, just considering like where your location is in Carmel, right? What the lots look like. Um, I just didn't think they were crazy prices. And I was like, okay, yeah, those numbers work. I do think like where I struggle sometimes is when I look at some luxury pricing, because the price jump is proportionate to price point. And so some of those I'm like, hey, like, and this sounds so bad to say, but it's like, hey, that's not a $1.8 million house. It's a $1.2 million house. Like, it's weird to say that because like it's still a very nice house. It's very whatever. But I feel like I've seen bigger gaps on the luxury side. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like things jumped really, really high there that I think are slightly overvalued versus what I would say kind of like, I don't know, 750 South. I feel like it's like, yeah, like I get it, it's expensive, but like, this is what you're getting for it. I don't know. I've just struggled with that a little bit when I look at these houses. I think part of it too is like, when I grew up in this industry and when you grew up in this industry, like, how many things were north of 2 million?
Right. Well, no, and the luxury number, because it used to be like how much was the luxury market's
What was the dollar amount?
limit, and like it was like 5. And then the other thing too is if you look back, as the average sale price and just like Carmel was like 3 something, it's now almost 5. And like Tucker has their luxury signs, and I think they say over 7 now. So that it consistently changes. But you were talking about like the luxury houses or anything in the millions or whatever. It is also very proportional when you have a price on your home that you're talking about a price drop of what do you drop it?
Yeah,
If you're at 1.5 and you drop it 10,000, that is a worthless for everybody.
So anytime I do luxury, I do the math for them, and I say like, hey, this is the equivalent of us dropping this much on. Because the interesting thing is like they want to price a certain way, but then they're like, oh, but we'll do the 5 and the 10. And
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's got to be proportionate to the dollar amount, right? And
Yeah.
so like that is a $50,000 price drop at
Yeah.
this price point. Like that's just how these numbers work. I mean, I'll do whatever, but like you got to be able to walk somebody through that stuff. But I just think it's really odd, the market, where I saw a bunch of stale stuff move. And I do think it's because buyers are really savvy right now, and they know that they can get some concessions and they can get some deals. And I think everybody is so aware of that as a consumer, as a buyer right now. I don't even know if they care to look at your house until it's 7 days on the market.
Well, the other thing too is
Why would I?
if they're going to look at your house and they know they're going to make an offer and they don't, I mean, hopefully they love it. That's why they're making an offer. But if they're kind of like, I don't care if I get it. They're going to throw in a lower price.
Next
There's
week.
more inventory than ever. We are up 30% in inventory over last July. That was the MyBor stats that came out. 30% more inventory.
That's a big number.
And we are in the issue with all of that. The buyers can now go and say, I'll just wait. And they're going to wait and see what you do. And the other conversation with your seller is, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we're listed at 500. The next buyer group is 575. So if you really want to make a difference, you've got to go to 575. But I'm just going to tell you, since we've had any days on market, if it's even 5 days on market, the buyer's already thinking, oh, we're going to give less than that. So you've got to be very careful and talking to your seller, like, where do you stop? Where can you not sell? And so we're back to that conversation, and we haven't had that conversation in a long time. Can you still sell this house if we continue to lower the price to a certain point? Because that's not going to be your sale price. Right. So if we lower to 575, be prepared for a 560, 555 offer at the most.
What you need to make
can you do it? If we lower to 575, can you sell at 555? We just started here, and now we're looking at an offer here. And so agents need to be very careful to see sometimes, and I don't think we're there because there's so much equity in a lot of people's houses, not like the day before, years before, I should say. But that's a thing to really bring into the conversation is we aren't getting list price all the time anymore either, especially if you're 30 days on market.
The conversation is, if I'm an agent, my conversation is never, like when I go into a listing appointment, right? And everybody wants to talk about their house. And like my very first pivot is, what are we trying to do? Like the house is the house. Like the house is just going to be the house, you know? What are we trying to accomplish? And then let's figure out if we can accomplish it and what we can get out of the house to accomplish that. Like that, like, I don't know. It's not about what I'm listing the house for, because all of that is going to be much further down the road. I need to know what we're trying to accomplish before I even
or basing the price on what they're trying to accomplish. Yes. So that's, I know, a conversation a lot of agents says, okay, you need to purchase a home and you're going to, upsize, and you need a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and you actually want a basement this time. So you need a house at this price point. So you need to sell your house here to get that much money out of it. Okay, let's price there. That conversation is going to get you nowhere and in a lot of trouble.
So I was thinking, as you're talking about it, I have not myself written a list price offer since the beginning of May. And even then, where I generally will do it is on contingencies, right?
First
right contingencies. And I'll do that because
you have to buy that first right.
You do. I pay a tax for the convenience.
I currently have a first right on my listing, and they weren't going to take it unless they got a great price, and they got a good price, so we took it.
And here's the other piece to it. I know because of how the market is performing, nobody else is going to come right list price, especially now it's going to be sitting because I'm a first right contingency on this thing.
Yeah.
So
then there's that. We should talk more about what a first right does.
Yeah, so the buyers are going to struggle to want to pay list price when they know they could go buy other stuff that's not list price. And so I can hold that marker basically on this house if I just am willing to pay list price, because it's a part of the process of what am I trying to accomplish, right? So,
but your listing that you're going to put on the market better be priced aggressive. That's my opinion. If I'm going to have you come and give me a first right, I want to know that you're going to do what you need to do to list that price and sell it, and not do we'll sit here for 60 days and see what happens.
It's interesting for me. It's like I usually just have a conversation. I'll be like, this is the house, this is the condition, this is where I'm going to price it at, this is why, this is where we can be at to still get this done. Like I don't know. I mean, that's generally what I kind of like, because I need that first right. Like it's about the next move,
right.
The house will be the house, So I try to communicate with the other agent a lot when it comes to that stuff, because there's nothing worse than being in a first right and then falling apart, and then you're like, all right, now what are we doing? It's just a whole thing, but which is super navigable. But
first rights were not even in the vocabulary for like 20, 21, 22, 23.
I got a bunch done, but they were hard. They were really, really hard.
Well,
and I had to pay top dollar.
You can pay top dollar for it, but then you also know that your house was going to sell immediately because that's what was happening on the market. in today's, I mean, first rights were
You
always,
could sit on the market for 6 months with a first right, right?
yeah.
It's a thing.
And the thing is you have to figure out whether or not. So here's my thing with first rights. A first right offer means that the current buyer in position one has to list their house in order to sell it. What is the percentage of those buyers that could just go ahead and buy it, but they'd really prefer to sell their house? So the reason I ask this question is that you have the ability to purchase it, or do you not? Now, in my case, I know they don't. So when another buyer is saying, I don't want to look at a first right house because, oh, they've got a buyer. It's not. No, just know buyers out there, if you see a house listed as a first right, more than likely, if they could have purchased it, they would have. Just know that a first right doesn't mean it's going to move forward and close. It's not. That's why they're in a first right position. So what I'm trying to say is buyers, don't be afraid to go look at a house with a first right, because more than likely it's going to fall apart and disappear and you will become the buyer.
Yeah.
It's a
If
buyer
you're in a position to be able to do that, you could go steal one, you know, you could.
Yeah, but I know a lot of buyers won't go look at a first right because they're like, oh, it has an offer on it. No, it's not a valid, true moving.
I think agents don't either.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's a waste of time. No, it's not at all.
It used to be.
Well,
I mean,
it happened so quickly, but
It
yeah.
happened so quickly, yeah. And buyers knew, buyers when they became sellers knew that, and they'd be like, oh, we'll just bridge it for 30 days and it's fine or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
Like, but so you're talking about like the equity that people have in homes, and you'd sent me a thing from Jared James, right? Who's somebody, I don't even know what he super does, but he talks a lot about real estate things.
He's coaching, and he's got a big summit coming up in Florida. So
Super
I like
educated.
listening to his stuff. Yeah.
I think he's amazing. I think he has a lot of good information. I think he does a lot of he's kind of like what we do, except for on a national level and much bigger deep diving, because that's what he does full time. Whereas like you and I just kind of like come out here and give our experience with what's going on. And he had since posted something about one of the problems was, you know, capital gains on if you own a house, and like the dollar amounts, which is like $250 if you're a single and $500 if you're married. And even then,
on the sale of your house, you'd pay capital gains if you didn't live in it for 2 years.
Profit, right?
Yeah.
Even then, like that is weird because you actually only owe the capital gains on anything over that dollar amount, right? Which people don't always know. I don't necessarily agree with the idea that that's a massive problem, because like we've gained so much increase. I think there should be a tax to the level of disproportionate appreciation that we have experienced. I just do. And people are like, well, that's costing me money. Well, it's not. Like, you get the money and you owe it in taxes. Your inability to save for your taxes is not the same as it. You know, you're getting this massive windfall, which is, when we're talking about those numbers, those are big dollar amounts.
Yeah.
Right?
So back up real quick to say what Jared said. So if you don't listen to Jared James, I'd highly recommend just grabbing some information and just kind of getting out there. He does all kinds of videos and TikToks and stuff, short information. What he said was he thinks houses are sitting on the sidelines, not being put on the market, not only because of those 3% rates, but because people don't want to pay capital gains on their properties when they sell them, because that number 250 and 500 was put into place years and years and years ago, and he feels that needs to be adjusted and raised for the appreciations that have happened in real estate. Is that a reason why houses are not getting? I mean,
so.
That was an interesting
Interesting take.
You know,
I've just never had somebody. I've had people bring up capital gains and blah blah blah,
But again, it's on 2 years of sale. If somebody sells a house in 2 years, so if they haven't lived in it for over 2 years, so under 2 years is what we're talking about.
I just don't see it being the issue that it's being perceived as.
But it was interesting to say that we need to adjust to today's real estate market, as those numbers were based on years and years ago of price values.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, even then, like. So my understanding, and like, I don't know, this is maybe where we're idiots here, but
hey, don't say we.
I'm an idiot.
Just kidding.
My understanding is like, if it's less than 2 years, you're owing capital gains no matter what.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's over 2 years, you owe capital gains on the amount over it. Like you can't avoid capital gains if it's over that much money, regardless of
Right.
how long you've owned it. It's just that if you haven't owned it 2 out of the past 5 years, then you are owner occupied, I guess is the
Yeah.
best way to put that.
It was
You're gonna
interesting,
automatically owe
though,
capital
just to
gains.
say, is that why people are sitting on their homes
I don't
also?
think so. Okay, so
It would be interesting
yes. So
to
the
see if
answer
we
is
could figure that out.
yes. But in my opinion, the amount of people that is a yes for is such a small sliver of the market. Like we're talking about um, fixed income,
Maybe it's the
elderly.
elderly. It's the,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
And
could see it being there. But even then, you're getting the money to pay the capital gains, by the way.
yeah.
You are getting it.
Yeah.
If you get 700K, but you owe, what would that be on that? You're going to owe, what, 20% on that, right?
Yeah.
So like you just made six. You know what I mean? I mean that's not the math on it, but
Right, yeah.
like it's not like you're like you get, and you have the 100 to pay the taxes on, and you have other things that you can do to offset that tax dollar amount, right? So I never thought I'd live in a world where people would be upset that they made only 600 instead of $700. Like,
Well, like you
do we
said, though,
realize
if it's on a, but it's
how
you
stupid
make
that
a good
sounds?
point. So the fixed income is whether or not they need to sell, because if they want to sell and move up to, or not move up, but they're moving to a smaller home, are they thinking they're going to lose $100,000 and change houses just to change houses to lose $100,000? Maybe that's it.
Well,
That's
and
the
here's
reason.
but it's also the people who are like concerned about because they have that appreciation, they're upset their property taxes have gone up and they're on fixed income, which we talked about last week, right? About maybe we need to do some kind of a fix once you hit a certain age and you are fixed
Yes.
income, that there is a cap to your property taxes.
Yes.
I do think like we
I
kind of like
agree with
spit
that
that out. I thought
100%.
that was a really good kind of thing
Yeah.
you just threw out. That
Nobody's
people who are-
listening to us, but
nobody's
that's okay.
listening. Yeah. Let me get
None
on.
of the legislatures are listening.
Somebody send this to the governor. Be like, these idiots have a good idea here, right? I'm an idiot, and then a lovely lady who's with an idiot. So I don't know. I just think there's some answers to it. I like how he pushes thought on these things. I just don't think that's the problem. I struggle with this whole idea. I've got a bunch of friends. I got a buddy down in Nashville. He really stays on top
Indiana,
of
Kentucky, or
it.
Tennessee.
Tennessee. He's my son's godfather, and he posts a lot of stuff. He really pays attention to the job market and everything else. He sells real estate down there. He does well. And like just arguments about what the numbers mean and everything. And I love him to death. He's super educated. About dropping interest rates, and I'm just not a big believer that that's the problem either, because interest rates were higher last year than they are right now.
I just think if interest rates would drop, I think buyers would get a little bit more motivated to get back into the market.
Okay.
I think it will help some motivation.
But
A little bit.
But last time the Fed dropped the rate, mortgage rates went up, not down.
Well, we
'Cause they're
need
loosely
both
tied.
to happen.
We need both to happen. Here's the other thing. If it happens, like I do agree with everybody, I do think it will inspire consumer confidence, right? To what you're saying, I think it will have people get off of the bench. My concern is like that will still just perpetuate the problem that we have with inflation right now. If anything, it could make it worse, because I'm giving people a false sense of confidence that the economy's in a place that it's not currently in. And then they're going to go out and they're going to go do this thing, and the economy's not going to adjust because we are trying to get rid of this inflation problem, which is, and we're throwing tariffs at it, and like our consumer credit is like just at an all-time high. Like there's just so much that is intertwined with this. I do, like, as a real estate agent, if they drop mortgage rates, like, will it be beneficial for me? Yeah, people will come out and they'll buy. As just like a citizens of the United States, as a guy with a family, is that good for me as a human? I actually don't think so. It's like, it's like it would be good for me professionally, but personally, I think there will be a long-term negative effect from that. That's just my understanding of like where we're at with the economy. I don't know. I think we just have to grind through this and
So we were talking earlier. Do you
deal with
think with the interest rates staying the way they are and they're not dropping them, it does seem to be causing the prices of houses to stabilize a little bit more. And they're obviously not going up exponentially like they were. We still see an increase in value over the last year compared to this year of the prices going up, but they're not doing it. So keeping the buyers out of the market could be a way to make the house stabilize the prices a little bit more, because that seems to be happening as we are seeing with
agents and sellers are dropping prices. 'Cause they
Yeah.
know the narrative. I thought
Yeah.
Angela Rab, managing broker for
Northside.
Meridian North, right? She had a really good kind of phrase for it last week, and she said people feel like they're catching a falling knife.
Oh, that just, I visualize that.
But
That
it
sounds
makes
horrible.
sense, right? Like buyers feel that way, sellers feel that way. When like as long as you stay in a home, you're gonna be fine regardless. Like that's just the reality of it. It's just this dumb idea where you get to buy a house and sell a house 2 years later, which I've dealt with a lot over the past couple of years. I mean, you remember I had people, and so did you. I had people who bought during COVID in like 2020, and we were like, man, they just way overpaid for a house, and they would sell a house 2.5 years later and make $80K.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I don't like that should. That's
Well,
not
that
a
gets
thing.
back
It's
to
never been a thing,
no.
and it was a thing for like 3 years, and
Yeah.
like it's gone. And like if you sell a house, we'll call it sub 4 years of ownership, odds are you should lose money.
Correct.
That's
Because of the cost to sell.
Yes.
But that gets back to why buyers today are talking about the fact that they, back in 2020, 2021, they were buying, just grabbing a house, writing offers on the front hood of the car, and grabbing a house that they really didn't care about, but they had to get a house and they had to compete. Today's market, the way it's slowing down is because they're not going to do that anymore. They've either been that person.
have to
Yeah.
either.
They were either that person, or they knew somebody who's in a house they don't like, or they didn't like, or they were forced to pay over dollar, way over that expected that they were not, or I should say, not expecting to pay. So there's a lot of people who are just not going to do that today, and they're going to take their time and they're going to make an offer on a house that they really, really want to purchase, and then they're going to ask the seller to fix things. It's a totally different market, and if the seller doesn't, they're going to walk. And then we're seeing that a lot. We're seeing a lot of back on markets as well. That's a whole nother issue of people just saying, really? I'll just wait for the next house. And with all of that happening, it's just a whole process that's happening to this market. And it has a lot to do with buyers now have choices that they didn't have before.
So here's
and
the
they're going to
question,
take it.
Like, is it that the market is bad, or is it that the market has become more educated?
The market stabilized, I think, is the word.
I think the market has become more educated and less impulsive, and I think that's a good thing.
It's a really good thing.
Really
We are not in a market that's unusual. If I get back to saying what I did when I first started, this is still a much faster market than before. We were looking at 6 to 9 months a lot of times. This is to me, a regular, normal market, and that's what people are trying to say. What's wrong? What's going on? What's causing this? I don't know, but it's just normal.
But I think the sellers are the one causing that problem right now, right? Because they're the ones in the pinch to sell right now. And so they're like, what do we do? And I just think it's about conversations, and like it ultimately gets down to, what were we trying to accomplish? And as long as we can pay attention to like what were we trying to accomplish, we will be fine and we will stay on the timeline. If we start to get wrapped up in the numbers and everything else, it's like playing a game of chicken, right?
You know what?
And you're gonna cower.
What you just said is a perfect finalization to this whole conversation. Is everything you just said. It is what you're trying to accomplish. Can you still accomplish it in the timeline that you set out at the table when you first listed this house? And the price was chosen over what we looked at the comps. The days on market were also discussed. And if that's all been discussed, and that's what our plan was,
we stick with the plan.
Keep it.
Yeah.
Just stick with your plan, move forward. Don't get, scared or antsy, and just stick with the plan. If you had a good plan from the beginning, it's still a good plan at the end.
Yep.
So
that's
just
about how you stay steady in the storm. That's it. That's all there is to it,
Well, let's just show our stats
we'll do the
then
stats.
after all this.
Yeah. Go ahead. Me or you? Me or you?
I'll do it. Carmel.
We can ham bone. Do you? I have a question. Okay, this is a totally a side note. Okay, so it's paper, rock, scissors, right? And then when I went to college, I met these guys from Logansport, and they didn't call it that. They called it ham bone, right?
I'm from the
What,
area of Logansport.
what do
Never
you
heard of
call
this.
it?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Really?
And
What do
then
you call it,
and
Raquel?
fire.
Fire.
You got if you add fire to it, that's even
That's not
funny.
even a thing, dude.
Well, rock, paper, scissors, shoot, but there could be rock, paper, scissors, and then you can also do fire.
I've heard it called something else too. I think I'm very curious what everybody calls that.
I've only heard rock, paper, scissors, and whatever. I'm from the area of Logansport, and I never heard that. But did you play euchre? Are you from Indiana?
Am I from Indiana? Yeah, I've never left Indiana.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to know. I found out when I went to college at Purdue, it was so funny that you had
a
to
local thing,
you had to
yeah.
teach people how to play euchre, and then they loved it when they learned it. But it was
So here's the problem with euchre.
We're
This is
digressing.
we're gonna go down this real quick. I love euchre. I was like in euchre club when I was like sixth grade. I got really good at cheating at euchre and like all of the things, right? My problem with euchre is I basically know what's going to happen as soon as I get my hand to a certain extent, right?
Well,
Unless
if
somebody-
you can do that in your brain, that's counting cards.
No. Like I can tell by my hand, and basically when we're just bid, I'm like, all right, this is how this is going to play out. Unless I just have somebody who doesn't bid correctly. I really got into spades in college. I preferred spades more because it has more strategy involved. I like euchre just to sit around and play it, but like if like I prefer spades.
Why did you
personally.
bring up rock, paper, scissors?
I don't remember.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Carmel.
This is how my brain works. everybody.
37 days or 37 homes hit the market in the past 7 days. Only 7 of those pended. So the amount of houses that are pending in the first 7 days has gotten lower and lower.
Yeah.
And so anybody who thinks, oh, it's still on the market after a week. Yeah, it is. No, most likely it is. 23 totally pended in the past 7 days. So still not the total of 37 that hit the market. So more inventory in Carmel. And 24 was the average days on market for those that pended the past 7 days. Active homes, there's 190. The average days on market for those 190 homes is 78. And the median is 42. So we are looking at least a month and a half up to almost 3 months for houses sitting. So just sellers, agents, remember that. Sold 153 sold in the past 30 days. Average days on market was 26 and the median was 6. So staying about that, again, I just want everybody to know, just looking at those average days on market of solds is not going to tell you the full story. Westfield 37 hit the market also. 10 of those pended, a total of 27. So we have a more inventory hit in Westfield. Average days on market for the ones that did sell were 29 in the past 7 days, and the median was 25. There are 288 homes in Westfield on the market. Obviously, a lot of those new builds. Average days on market 65 and a median of 45. There's 155 that sold in the past 30 days. Average days on market for them was 38 and median was 19. Zionsville, 9 hit the market. 2 of those pended, 8 total pended. Their average days on market is 33. So they're at a month in Zionsville with no inventory and low amount coming on the market. They're still at 30 days. 74 is currently sitting with their average days of over 3 months. So Zionsville slowed down, in my opinion, compared to what you would look at with their inventory and how much hits the market every week.
Especially for a place that tends to sell quickly.
Yeah, it's
Historically.
starting to show that the active homes are just sitting there. 59 total sold in the past 30 days with an average days of 24 and 9. Again, those numbers show a month, but like I'm just looking at those active inventory at over 3 months.
It's a lot. So my numbers, I was just flipping through it. I'm going to do Noblesville first because it's way easier here with what I want to talk about. So Noblesville had 28 go on the market, anywhere from 219 to 850. 23 are still active, only 5 pended within a week, right? 29 pended. So I actually lost one in inventory there. I have 196 on the market. Average days is 36. The median is 31. Fishers is really interesting. I was sitting here while you're talking, looking at it. I had 52 go on the market.
Wow.
First week of school.
Wow. Yeah, thinking of that. We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah. So first week of school, anywhere from 210 to 5.9. Shout out to Jeff, who was just here last week with the 5.9.
Jeff Kuchik.
Yep. 40 of
Acoustic.
those are still on the market, so 12 pended. 40 total pended, right, last week. So I picked up inventories, 268 on the market in Fishers. 31 is the average days, 9 is the median. Okay, so as I flip back, you got to think, we took like 2 weeks off in July, right? I think around 4th of July.
Yeah.
Anybody remember? I had to go back. So like I write these down every week. I had to go back 10 entries. So that would put me 3 months back to when I saw a number as high as 52 in Fishers. Everything else has been less. And that number was 55. And then I kept looking past that, and I only saw something at that high of a volume go on the market 2 other times, which were in the 50s. The first week of school.
That's amazing. I didn't, yeah. I wasn't even putting all that in my brain either about that.
That is like third highest since March to go on the market, which is like an insane week to go on the market, right?
Yeah.
Like the first week of
And
school.
how many pinned it out of all of those total?
12.
Yeah.
Such a low number, which I mean,
Yeah.
but so
I was just
I
curious.
don't even want to get into like why did agents list that week, right? Well, I mean, because I listed
Well,
one
no,
last week, but
37,
those are more
37, and
chunky.
9. Everybody chose, I mean, people do. And is that a conversation?
Mine
Actually,
just fell on that week, and it wasn't a big deal, right? But it's just a very odd week, right? And because you're probably going to say it's not.
it
about
wouldn't
whether
be a
it's
week I would choose to list a house.
right? Because people are busy, and
You just
like,
know it's
low
going to hit
viewership.
days on market, right?
Right.
It's just going to add 7 days on market because of that. But next week, this week, coming up, no, I'm just saying that's even worse. It's all the back to school stuff, all that have stuff going on. I have a house I'm getting ready to list. It's already in pre-market status in Carmel. It's been a complete rehab. It's going to hit the market. And my conversation has been, okay, pictures are Friday. Should I just go ahead and let it hit the market Saturday? That's so against what's ingrained in me. But you know what? This gets what I'm talking about is school starts or whatever. Days on market are going to be days on market, and it doesn't matter because
Then
I'm
you start
still.
racking 'em up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not
That's
like
fair.
I'm trying to get the first 4 days out of it. It's not. I'm looking at the first 45 days, maybe. I'll
it
get
doesn't
lucky if
matter,
it doesn't.
so that makes
So I think we're going to list it on Saturday. It's probably going to be the first time I've listed a house on a Saturday in 5 years.
Make sure
But
there's
you know
office
what?
stuff here to do it.
I know how to do
But
it.
here's the thing. Even so, let alone the fact that even if it was like 40, I'd be like, that was a lot for the first week of school. It's not just a lot. Like, it's one of the highest for the whole year.
That's weird. That's really weird.
So why? Why so many houses all of a sudden as we're rolling into like, third quarter, so to speak? Like, that's just a very...
Yeah, what
I
made
don't have
everybody
a lot to
decide,
take
yeah.
from that other than like, that's an interesting
Yeah.
number.
That is very interesting.
It'd be weird if it was like, oh, we've had a bunch of weeks like this and it's been down for 3 months and then we got up here. Like, no, this is like, I found 3
Or
other
like
weeks
interest
higher
rates
than this.
lowered and they're like, oh, now's the time to list the house.
Correct.
Nothing
suggests
happened.
Anything like that.
Nothing happened.
And I have one of the highest weeks that we have had in an entire year for listings of fish.
So what's going to be interesting is to look at this about 6 weeks from now and see what the average days on market sits for that whole area because
it'll go up because I have such a
There's-
disproportionate amount that are now ticking against it.
inventory is going to be more competitive,
Very good
much
point.
more
'Cause
competitive.
I have less buyers.
Yeah.
So just law of numbers, that number is going to go up just because even if stuff is selling, I have too much inventory to, well, I would say, make the days on market go down instead of up.
No, I would say that that's
interesting.
going to make the days on market go even higher for
Yeah.
the ones that sit active.
It's interesting. We'll keep an eye
So
on
be
it.
ready for that, you guys.
Yeah.
Just be ready for your sellers to understand that and pay attention.
Here's maybe at one point we'll be like, does this have anything to do with the new ordinance that they passed in Fishers,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But that happened-
Hurry, buy your
that
rentals
happened, like,
now.
4 weeks ago.
I know,
so
but
don't
buy your
think-
rentals. You have 4 more months, whatever.
I know. And get registered.
Yeah, if you can, if they can even get that information to you, that's a whole nother thing with the cities being under that kind of a
Yeah.
like
we had Chris
paper,
Chris on to
paper
talk
pushing
about
going
that.
on. Well, great.
So-
This is
I'll be gone next week. I'm going to be
Okay.
in Glacier, so we're going to take a week off. Hopefully I do not die.
yeah. Be
by falling
careful.
off a mountain or being eaten by a bear. I've actually heard moose. You have to be really careful around a moose
Oh,
because they're so massive.
I would be
just
so
wanna go
excited.
pet
I
'em
would be
all.
so excited if I saw them. I would be like, "Oh, come here."
Doesn't petting a bear sound awesome?
Yes, even a moose.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited for it.
Just
So hopefully I don't die.
Bring some, little treats in your pocket.
Yeah. Here, kitty. Anyway, so we'll be off for a week, but we'll circle back and we'll have some updated numbers on then, and we'll have some guests. My name is Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker. My number is 317-649-5122.
I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group, FC Tucker, 317-201-2601. Thanks. Bye.